Hey everyone, Temporal here, and for this session we are going to be reviewing the maps that were just released. We saw that they played a couple other maps that they hadn't told us about, and we've got the Shock versus Dallas here, a couple maps that we hadn't previously seen. And fortunately this time it's on an old map. We are looking at Havana. They have made it nighttime Havana, so that's the change for Overwatch 2, I guess. Maybe we'll get day and nighttime Havana, but at least today we're looking at nighttime Havana. It doesn't look like they've changed it other than the lighting, though. So this is a map we recognize. Hopefully it'll make the game a little more digestible and a little easier to see, wait, how does this compare to what we have now? Because it's a map that we recognize, unlike some of the previous stuff where it was a new map, it was a new game mode, all that. So let's see if we can get some additional information. First off, I do like this change, I have to say. I do like that when Lucio's on Speed Aura, people get green feet. Like, I think that is a useful, helpful change for people to see. It wasn't always super obvious. Lucio was obvious enough when you were dealing with him directly that he had speed, and obviously you could pay attention and notice that people had speed, but I think highlighting this more is probably a good change. It's one of the pieces of the UI change that I like. I've got mixed feelings on some of the other stuff. They stepped in something. They stepped in speed. Not that kind. Or maybe that kind. I don't know. Okay, so we're going out here, and
epic looking building here. The lighting, of course, is much more distinct.
Shock is coming out on Brawl, 5-man Brawl. Are they going to go for a spawn hold? Yeah, they are. They're not being stealthy about this at all. Okay. So they're going for their spawn hold. They've set themselves up on gas station. Let's see how well that works with 6 people. Obviously, spawn holds tend to fail once you've lost one person most of the time. It's not always 100% true, but generally that's how it works if the attacking team understands what they're doing. I'll also be curious what the attacking team can do in terms of, hey, they can still come out with some of the best ways to break this was pharmacy, ball tracer, that sort of thing. Get a tracer and a ball behind them. We'll see if that's what happens, and we'll see how this all works just with things differently. A Bastion. Okay, that's another way to break spawn holds. Bastion Sim. Are they all coming out one direction? Why are we all coming out? Because we're doing a Bastion strat. Okay. Is he strong enough to threaten like this anymore? Like, he's weaker with this now, so you're not taking angles. You have less power than you would have on the old Bastion. Like, he's a better hero right now, don't get me wrong, but you have less power on this one extreme angle that you've taken on this version of Bastion, and you haven't really taken... And no, you left your sim behind, so at least you do have your sim, it looks like, is threatening from here, while your Reinhardt Bastion from here. Okay, so you've got a bit of us around.
A secondary fire that's like a grenade. It can stick to players.
What was that? Just a turret? No, your whole team basically came with you.
And also the
okay.
Ultimate, the airstrike, but...
Okay, so that worked miserably, and let's see if we can get a better feel for why that worked quite so miserably. Was it just that they don't surround them? Is the Bastion just too weak for this play now? The Bay Wall comes out, the Sim stays behind to do a little bit of threatening, but it looks like it's mostly going to be ignored.
While in the sentry form now,
and too much of your time ticks down. Yeah, you're really not doing very much damage. Like, we're at 10% ult charge. You just are not getting very much damage done here.
A grenade, it can stick to players, bounce off of walls, and then also the ultimate, the
Meanwhile, Glisser was able to ramp up basically immediately. Okay. Sure.
Very effective no matter if you're playing Overwatch 1, Overwatch 2, playing close to the spawn door here on Havana.
Did take out Super, so in theory that should end the spawn hold. But I think the eliminations were too late, the cleanup took too long, because it wasn't like, oh, eliminate one and then disengage, and then you push in while that person's gone, which, you know, attackers would frequently do. That wasn't really an option to them, because they sort of went all in with the Bastion TB strat there. Is Brig really the play for your Brawl here? Huh.
Was Bastion not moving all that?
Ult charge versus tanks was nerfed. Don't forget. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Less ult charge for shooting, because you're right. Bastion did take out a Reinhardt, and that would have been less ult charge. Yeah, Havana at night looks pretty interesting. Ryan also has a massive amount of armor in Overwatch 2. Takes even less damage for his weaker Bastion. Right. Shooting the lamppost probably didn't help. That's fair. That's fair.
During that turret mode, but being able to relocate is pretty important here.
Okay, so they're acting like they broke the spawn hold, but I don't think they have. They were able to get out of their spawn doors, but this cart has moved 0, and they didn't get to soften up this team in the open. This is still an even fight. Okay. I'm not convinced that's a good enough Mei wall. I'm not convinced that's a better Mei wall, so that's fair, I suppose.
Mei wall goes up, just kind of blocks some of the damage.
So red, in theory, would have the slightly better tempo for the second Mei wall, since neither of them had great Mei walls to start, but now we've forced out Ice Block, which should put blue, Shock here, in a pretty decent advantage. That said, the range isn't optimal. Like, again, if we thought about this in Overwatch 1 terms, we're really not at an optimal range for our sim to be doing work. That would be a little bit of an advantage for this team that has the Bastion instead. And we're in Overwatch 2. That's still going to be true, though, where, hey, this Bastion should be the better hero at this range where the sim really can't quite do what they want.
From the Bastion.
Sure. Let's take a look at your fire strike here. You're doing a little bit of shield dancing, because of course you are. You're going to go for a fire strike. It's not amazing, but the Mei was in ice block. The Bastion very clearly isn't looking at you. Sure. Okay. You probably... Were you taking frost damage there? You could have afforded that. Oh, no. You did have that on you. I'd have probably said one more swing, but okay. And now your sim's too ramped up. This is over. Your sim has been ramping. Your sim is ramped. You break line of sight. So it's 3 people are looking at you, but only one of them has range. Lucio's booping them. Okay, you're justifying the fire strike. And this is over.
How aggressive they have him in. Nice pin there on the fielder.
The pin, I mean, the pin was cool. We got an extra elimination on someone who might have gotten away. By we, I mean Shock here. They'd already won that fight, though. Like, the sim was able to get in range and ramp up, and the Bastion doesn't have the power to fight it looks like. So that's something that's worth knowing. Like, the new Bastion does look more flexible. I haven't been impressed with the damage. Now, admittedly, he was in, you know, standard robot mode there and didn't have a ton of power. He wasn't in either of his, you know, more useful, more powerful forms there. But that is not fared terribly well. And we could talk about angles, we could talk about engagement strategy, we could talk about timing, and yes, he did get caught at a bad timing there, but so far he hasn't really been amazing in the power that he's delivered on that. Okay, so now we come out on the Pharaoh. This is an approved way to break the comp, and now we've got a ball too. So this should be a pretty reasonable comp. I don't know that I'd go with the Ana here. I probably would still say, hey, it makes sense to run preferably Zen. Bap and Ana would sort of be second tier choices for this, but like Ana's really not going to have a great target to. She can nano the Pharah, but she's not going to have a great target to heal. She's not going to have someone good to put resource into right now. Okay. Why do you think you can do this? Like, this is like you're committing in here, Sparkle. Do you just not respect these players? Like, you're leaving your safety of the rooftop. You pepper from the safety of the rooftop until your team is ready to go in. And guess what? Your ball is still back here. Your ball isn't behind this team ready to go in for a hard commit. So why do you think you can leave the safety of the rooftop to do this? Like, maybe because they are on Sim plus Mei? Is that why you think you can do this? Because they've only really got Violet to check you? I guess that makes sense. Okay, I guess that makes sense. You're gonna hard in against a window? Okay. Okay, so Violet with a window took you down basically instantly. And you had a Mercy Pocket there. Did she swap to heals? You're on heals. That just goes up so slowly while you... This is with the change, I believe, because this was done while they were on the same patch that the other one was done, which means if they'd taken damage, healing drops to 75% effectiveness or something like that. We see that health going up mighty slow there. Mercy's given up at the end when they're at 38 health, but that's pretty slow climb. But again, that was with a window, yes, but just a BAP really with the hit scan there. What happened to May's hair? They changed the icons for a lot of them. I mean, we can see that Lucio's face now looks rather thin. We can see that Reinhardt, is more defined perhaps with his hair. We can see that May's portrait has changed as well here. I mean, they've changed a lot of these portraits, and they haven't changed all of them. Mercy's got changes, but I expect they plan to change all of them, and they just haven't redone the icons yet for Symmetra, for Hanzo, for Hammond, Farah, and Anna. I suspect those are still all on the to-do list. May looks balding. Ouch. Pressure of being a tank got to her. She's not a tank anymore. I mean, really never quite was, but... Okay, so we're going in hard with our Farah. Did we set up our ball this time? Why are we doing it like this, guys? Like, why are we still approaching this from one direction? It's still going to be about angles. Like, let your ball actually go behind the enemy comp, go get a health pack out of combat, and then come in from behind as your Farah comes in from here, and maybe as your Hanzo threatens from here type thing. Like, why are we feeling the need to have everyone come in the same direction against this team? They still have a Rhine shield that should still work. Mm-hmm. They're going to defend themselves with Blizzard and Simwall. You're committing in awfully early. Ultimately, you do get the Reinhardt. Okay. And then this is just a stall. That's good stall, though. I mean, they got 2 minutes off the clock there. And then we see swaps come in from Shock. Now they're going double hit scan. Okay. Super, you're kind of early. Your team's really not back and ready yet. I don't know that you can hold this space. Okay, now they're here. Jesus. Okay. Would have melted to that either way. There was nowhere for them to go. Yeah. Like, that's just, you got caught in bad positioning against the owl level hit scan. That happens. Speaking of, oh, didn't want to mute there. Why did you mute?
Because of the hero combo.
Okay, so here you are.
See that,
That soldier's Usain Bolt. A little bit. Okay, so hit that.
Maybe you deal with it.
And then you're really not that far from cover. Oh, but you jumped into the middle. Why did you jump into the middle? You jumped into the middle of the lane rather than going towards cover there. Like, we were relatively safe over here where we had the option to go in here, and instead we lunged into the open with our little puffity hop. Like, no, of course you're going to get eliminated now.
I know most of the players don't. You hear the rockets just.
Are we taking back the spawn hold? I'm so down.
So much scarier.
Yeah, look, I think if you're playing a DPS, you want.
I think you can do it. Yeah. Like you guys have a Tracer, you guys have a Lucio, they have ball. You shouldn't really be able to redo the spawn hold.
Like you're having an impact. Like,
but we're gonna try anyways.
Guess,
okay.
The impact you're having is proportional to
Okay, please take angles. Please take angles, Dallas.
And I definitely think that's been captured in a big way here. Soha, this is a classic one from him. The Dragon Strike going to go through the store here. Sound barrier going to be used as Super sleeps it off for the time being. The cart's on the move and...
Okay, the pharmacy got behind.
Are in an odd position here.
As did the ball.
Yes, this is... I mean, they have pushed...
See that one more time.
Are in an odd position here.
Yes, this is... I mean, they have pushed all the way up back to the door.
That's disappointing. Shock set that up reasonably well. It's not amazing, but reasonably well. They use the Dragon Strike time to rotate. Then they have a Nano Farah. And their Bull get behind the team. but Doa goes down as they rotate. The Dragon Strike isn't enough cover. And so really what they need to do is they need to just leave. They need to just go deeper back into first where they can't be chased down by Shock and be ready to push in, after this beat is over and when their Hanzo is alive again. Instead, they commit. We're committing without our nano because our nano's already over. Yeah, that's not amazing.
I mean, they have pushed all the way.
Nor was that really a very good height to commit from.
I think they really made a difference. Even
with Barrage,
played this position without like the Mei and
light mode my eyes. Well, hey, they're in the YouTube. Yeah, whatever. You can deal. Val says, watching Al players get punished by Temporal makes me feel better at my own gameplay. So if I do everything Temporal wants, I would be better than Al. I don't know if you would specifically be better than Al. These people do other things very right. Like, I can absolutely call out mistakes that they make. Positioning mistakes, setup mistakes, planning mistakes. Those all absolutely happen. But do you have aim like Tayo? Can you take down Pharaohs and Hanzos in the open that fast? Like, that's going to be hard. People are ultimately, do have some level of difference in terms of mechanics, in terms of, how fast they are at reaction time, those sorts of things. But that's okay.
The Sim and some other heroes that can be used in a more stationary sense, but with the 76, right? The sight lines are really nice here for him, able to put down some damage at range, and then you have Glister being able to finish these kills off. It's possible.
But there's things you can definitely do better than these players. Better than these players are doing here today. I don't think they would usually play quite like this. I think this is I don't necessarily think they're like not trying or not taking it seriously. Clearly Shock is taking it seriously. They, went for the spawn camp. They went and did this. But how do I want to put this? New Genji. Yeah, there's the Genji portrait. But, they probably haven't been coached, probably haven't thought about this. They're probably throwing a lot of things out the window without even meaning to. That was something I felt like we saw in the last map we did, the new game mode map, where it felt like they were throwing out stuff that they knew and without good reason. Like, they weren't forward holding. They weren't setting up chokes ahead, that sort of thing. And here it took longer than I'd have liked for Dallas to even try okay, let's get behind them play to actually set up our dives properly.
All right.
If you can aim like that, there you go.
Minefield available for Han, being here, but only 20 seconds are left. He's able to get to the high ground.
Okay, so I want to see this again. We should be setting up right now. Now, there is a Tracer on the other team, but the Tracer can be bullied. Hanbin's choosing to go in. This is really before his flankers are set up. There's a little bit of left presence, but this is only going to be two directions. We don't have any sort of presence coming in from over here, so we're running, again, there's less people on the board, so it's going to be harder to take as many angles, but like, ball in from here, Tracer in from here, Genji in from here, that would be pretty good. That would still be pretty good. Or, we could go like ball in from here, Genji in from here, Tracer is circled behind and comes in from back here. Like, we could still get 3 angles reasonably well. Instead, we're looking at 2. Tracer's main for some reason. Okay. Sort of a dive. So low health, though. And that's with anti-heals. Okay.
Okay, a trade of kills. Sparkle's down, but Violet, the lion's share of healing, is missing now.
Okay.
The shock. But Glister finds the finish on Fielder. Now, I mean, the Fielder running on fumes.
Sure.
Look at this out of nowhere. It's an RKO from Super. Huge
okay.
Charge.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, they forced the dive without very... Oh, okay. That's, like, Frankenstein's monster electrocuted to life right there. That is, not fantastic.
A lot of these games have been really close between these two teams. I don't know how.
So they didn't set up the... If I look at this, the Fuel didn't set up their last dive well, in terms of, hey, this should have come from multiple directions all at once. They also did this, hey, our ball's going to go up here. He's really not going to get healed up. He's not going to get... He's not going to get his health back, but he's going to come back in and commit to this dive, and that's cool and all. Okay, so going hard for this went in for this slam here before we'd appropriately set up our angles, and then part of the reason he went in for this slam with low health, half health, that sort of thing, is because his Tracer and Genji were already in. So really this is like angles and timing, not great. Well, if your angles and timing aren't great and you're playing dive, you're not going to win. And then breaking this spawn hole in the first place didn't really take angles, didn't really send our ball behind these guys early, tried to match them with a brawl. Did set up initially with the Bastion play, and I can respect that. I think they probably just got caught off guard with how weak the Bastion was, relatively speaking. And their sim didn't really commit hard when the walls went down. Once the Mei walls went down, the sim probably needed to come in harder from behind, even though she didn't herself have protection, didn't have a Rhine shield in front of her, because the Bastion was monopolizing that, one tank. It was going to be hard to turn and deal with her when the Bastion damage was coming in. So the Shock probably took less damage than they should have there. But let's see round 2.
For the Shock, but they have put themselves in a fantastic position to win here on Havana.
New temporal video, secrets of carrying your games without mechanics, 100k views. Maybe.
This is extremely potent defense. Yeah, there's so much more of this map to see by night, ladies and gentlemen.
Conclusion, you can have best position, but if you don't get shots to hit, you won't carry.
Well, the card doesn't need to be...
Yeah, I mean, you can do a lot. Like, even with poor mechanics, you can do a lot, even on some of the mechanical hero. If you have poor mechanics for your skill tier, if you've got good positioning, you've got good timing, you can do a lot. But ultimately, yes, let's say you're playing in a brawl meta, and your McCree is constantly taking off angles, and their McCree starts constantly taking off angles to match, or even taking them less often, but does start taking them. If he just beats you every time that you go there, that's going to be a bit of a problem, right? So, like, they do matter.
Be moved through much of the map by the Shock to guarantee their victory. So let us now peruse through this.
But you can do a lot to cover up your mechanics with positioning and timing, among other things.
Ready for battle.
Okay.
All right. Powerful her rifle sounds.
That had a chance to go.
Are they going on about the
They
sound
love
again?
the Widow sound.
I swear, like, if you're
Right,
going
so
on
they
about the
love
weapon
it.
sound,
Yeah,
I'm just going to take that as we don't have anything good to say, so we're relying on this one. Which I don't think is fair. I think there is some good stuff to say here.
Is a frightening sight as the Shock look to be running the Bastion here with a Mei. I know on the offense, and you can see Bastion's change in that primary fire.
Right, so it's
Yeah.
it's a slower rate of fire, but much less spread. Look at this.
You're really not. That's really a very slow rate of fire compared to
Yeah,
what
it's
we're
like
used
single
to.
shot.
Yeah, no spread.
But it's accurate.
spread.
Okay.
Yep. Feels a little more impactful, I think, than...
Sure. Are we going to take an angle? We are. We're sort of going to go into our mode early here.
And if you can get an angle like this, right?
Now, this isn't an angle anymore if your whole team comes with you. I probably don't want my Reinhardt, my Bastion, and my Mei on the same angle. Just as a general rule. As a general rule, I probably don't really want both of my DPS and my tank on the same angle, especially in Overwatch 2 when I can't have an off tank on a different angle. Because this means we're maximum getting 2 angles, like maybe our BAP is on a different angle, but let's be honest, our BAP is not on a meaningfully different angle, so like, no.
It's a Mei wall there, almost put it right in front of him, but...
The comp from Fuel is a little interesting here. They've gone with the Sombra, who we saw was very powerful in the previous showcase video released, and then they've gone with a Diva. So they're using a Lucio Zen support lineup with Sombra Soldier and a Diva. So it's kind of mobile. Like, mobility is what they're going for. We would call this a dive comp. Classic dive supports don't really get used together anymore. Not sure why we're seeing classic dive supports. Rather than having a break here. Maybe we have the Lucio. Maybe that makes more sense in the world of DPS having a passive of all moving a little faster. Maybe it makes more sense to bring Lucio. Lucio's sort of fallen out of flavor as a support to send with Zen, in part because Brig supports dive heroes better, in part because Brig does so well against peeling against dive heroes. But Lucio, indirectly peels against Brawl by letting you rotate your backline away from them for longer, making it take longer for the Brawl team to catch you. So, like, that's what he does, and maybe they just read the Brawl and were like, no, we still want the Zen, but we also want the Lucio to stay away for longer. Maybe.
Being able to move, obviously, still a little bit slower.
Okay.
But being able to
Skates versus ice.
sentry form. You get those
Okay, rotate around for high ground. Reasonably good rotation. So the reason that they all went left and didn't take angles is because they didn't actually want to fight yet. They wanted to take the high ground. Fine with me. You do stack when you rotate.
I used to say that playing Bastion was
Okay.
like playing the cello in a march.
Nice translocator find.
Setting up and moving and
Glisser gets caught and our lamp is late.
Bastion was like playing the cello in
And we've got reasonably good angles from the going on over here from Fuel. We've got our soldier up here. We've got our Zen poking from here. It's not amazing. Like, it's kind of like this, and that does sort of narrow into this, which is, you know, something. A little bit of an angle measure there, but okay.
in a marching band.
Sprig being reworked. I mean, she's going to have to be reworked in some way for her not having Bash to work.
Setting up and moving and setting up again.
Or her Bash not stunning, at least.
You can do it on wheels.
Okay, so they're going for the rotation again, but they lost their Bastion. And again, that's a bigger deal now. Losing one is an even bigger deal because it's a bigger percentage of your team.
The talk to get him out of Hanbin's purview, though.
Yeah, they didn't get the immortality field down.
This should be a pretty easy win for the Fuel here.
Right in time.
Okay.
Sparkle able to control some of the high ground.
Yeah, there you go.
You see, even with the Lucio, right, with how they're playing this composition, for the Shock, it's been difficult for them to track down some of the members on the Dallas Fuel because they're...
You want Brig to be less useless during not dives? Then she needs to be less good against dive.
Really wants to play on the individual strengths.
Like, you have to trade power.
One matchups.
There's no Fuel to Zenyatta left now, and the Fuel might want to be touching in just a moment. Doha moves up, EMP, bam.
That's massive.
Percent health damage, and of course that initial hack. That's nasty.
Okay.
Spark, EMP,
So
bam.
here we are.
Zenyatta left now, and the Fuel might want to be touching in just a moment. Doha moves.
So Diva's in through the window. EMP comes out. Remember, it only locks them out of abilities for 1 second now, but it does take away 40% of their health, and then makes them all take more damage from Sombra. Which just means Violet gets deleted. And 1 second was enough time to... Did still remove the window. That's a good point. Even though it only lasts for 1 second, it still has that hack effect, so it still removes things like the window. Fair?
Damage, and of course that initial hack. That's nasty stuff. Sparkle going to capitalize here from the high ground, and Super cowers behind his shield. Sparkle,
of course he does.
There's no way.
I would too.
I mean, Sparkle has... I mean, he's not going to buy a kill right now. The attack fighter, he's half HP. 100 HP, and is this...
Why?
He's not going to buy a kill right now.
Why do you feel the need to force this, Sparkle? Jesse can just keep point lockdown. Jesse's peeling. That's why you feel the need to do this. Because Jesse's peeling someone who's appropriately set up behind. So you feel like they can't hold the card. Okay.
100 HP, and there's a shield in his way. This gambit might not have paid off.
It was 1 meter, I get it.
Moved back, immortality field had to be used as a sound.
Oh boy. If you kite, you lose. That sucks. Okay, support ult, good. That was not actually a bad support ult. It probably looks like it, but remember they've got, you know, it's like we're support ulting down, but they've got no distance to give. Spread out, spread out. You guys aren't gonna hard push off this. There's not enough time left. Spread, get your angles. Control left side. Control left side.
What are we getting?
Control right side from this perspective.
Getting close to the Glister, Pulse Bomb, and
Okay.
the Shatter, and it looks like they're gonna take a different angle. Look, this is where Diva's really.
Okay, I can live with this. We've got some angle control going on here, so decent on this on defense.
Really beneficial, right? You can have, Han.
Glisser immediately takes the off angle. Okay, they're all finding their rhythm a little bit.
The sound barrier available.
Kind of rushed that shot.
The mobility to get away.
No, you're already loud here. You have to rush this shot. Your tracking just lets you down. And there's the stick. Make up for it. And that's it.
Is a game-winning play from the Tracer on the high ground. Self-destruct there, but there's no way Hanbin's going to get back in the neck. It's just Doha on his lonesome. And the sand
Okay, so that's the end of that one. As we look at it, I'd say this was nice. I'm glad we got to see this on a classic map, even if it's dark out in this classic map. That was helpful, and I'm also glad that we got to see some level of classic compositions. They came out with, hey, this is Brawl. And it still mostly worked how Brawl is supposed to work. It was like, okay, you don't have an off tank, but you're out there on Brawl. You're out there on, they made their slight variations, but they came out there on their Reinhardt, Lucio, Bap, and then they were like, okay, let's have a Bastion instead of McCree with our May, or let's have a Sim instead of our May with the McCree. So maybe that's saying, hey, McCree, not so much with the without the flashbang there. Maybe that's what it's saying. But the comp still mostly worked. They were able to do a pretty standard spawn hold. They were able to get 2 minutes off. The Shock were able to get 2 minutes off with their spawn hold. We saw how that worked. They were still looking for some of the fundamental normal stuff of, okay, hit a split with a May wall or hit a May wall to not let some people go back into the spawn after a couple have gotten out, run them over with your Lucio speed, get your eliminations. You have to control both sides. Like that worked, and it worked reasonably well. We did see some things where some things went down alarmingly fast, particularly the Pharah got just melted a couple times there. Most of those situations, both of those situations, though, looked to me like they would have happened regardless. Like we had the situation where our Pharah just left the roof and just got melted by a BAP with a window when, yeah, she left the roof before her team had properly staged a dive, so the other team wasn't properly distracted. And then we had the one out here where our Pharaoh was just sort of floating in the sky here, and this might not have seemed like a terrible position, but when the enemy team shows up here, yes, it was particularly good tracking against the pharmacy, but the fair had nowhere to go, and they were going to get eliminated in another third of a second regardless, even if the mercy healing had been stronger. So that didn't particularly, like, we didn't see much there. Pharmacy went down surprisingly easily, but those looked more like positional mistakes. Yes, they clearly would have lasted a tiny bit longer without, but it didn't look like it changed either of those situations. Then we had the Bastion. The Bastion being different definitely changed the validity of some plays. There was still a timing issue on the Rhine Bastion behind thing. Rhine Bastion TP'd behind, Sim stays back here, and then, team is sandwiched in here with their own stuff. Like, there was definitely a timing issue on the Sim should have pushed in harder once the May wall went down, and there was a timing issue of the May wall blocked out because Bastion can only stay transformed for so long, blocked out some of Bastion's time here. We'll just do an hourglass to represent time. Could have done a clock face. Blocked out some of Bastion's time, and that was a big deal. Bastion was more vulnerable to being blocked out by a May wall for time, but Bastion also just had raw less power. Yes, I know, was shooting into a Rhine shield, didn't get that much ult charge. Taking down the Rhine then leads to, doesn't give him as much ult charge, but really didn't do that much damage, I would say. It didn't feel terribly effective for either team when they used the Bastion there. So I'd say Bastion probably a better hero, more flexible, will be stronger just because they're more flexible than before, but based on what we saw here, didn't look amazing. Um, we did see some result of the healing changes. We did see still a lack of angle play until the second round. The second round angle play was better in, and some of the times where I went, hey, why aren't you taking angles was because Shock was rotating, for example, and that's fine. You collapse for a lot of your rotations. So yeah, I looked at this, and this looked more like something that's recognizable at an organized play level, and I appreciate that. I don't mind it being chaotic necessarily when you're throwing randoms in there, but these are pros that play on teams that they were with their teammates here, and it did look like it had some organization, some semblance to it, at least. I won't say at least for the second half. I'll say the whole time. The Shock looked reasonably organized the whole time. Dallas looked reasonably organized for the second half there. That was good to see. It still did have some degree of, hey, this plays like Overwatch. There's still some macro going on. The principles still work, that sort of thing. It's just, at least in this version, yeah, there's a fair bit less healing. Some of the heroes need to be refigured out, like, hey, Bastion is weaker. How does that change your ability to break a brawl, for example, with a Bastion swap when they're spawn camping you? And a lot. Bastion looks like is going to be less good at that than they were before. Pharmacy may be less good at that too. So are we going to see more spawn camps in Overwatch 2? Maybe. because those were some of the better heroes for breaking spawn camps. That said, breaking the spawn camp could have certainly been executed better with letting the balls go behind, setting up your Hanzo on a different angle, that sort of thing. Okay, if you guys have questions, thoughts, opinions, go ahead and throw them up in there now, and I'll address a few of those. If you're just enjoying the content, do feel free to drop a like. Looks like a bunch of you have already done that. I appreciate that. And if you are not already subscribed and would like to see more content like this or other types of content, consider subscribing. Okay. Does trans have a wider effect area? Hard to say. They did a better job of outlining what trans's effective area was. You saw they sort of did the circle on the ground that moved with the Zen there that you could see more clearly. Transcendence's area has been a little hard to tell on before for a couple reasons. A, because it actually works in ticks, which means you can't tell if you were at the edge of it because it didn't have this circle before. It used to be more like this and then like, and there's beams of light going out. And if you're here as Reinhardt, are you in the beams of light or not? I don't know. Are you this close and you didn't get healed because a tick hadn't gone off yet? Or are you this close and you didn't get healed because you weren't in it before? So the circle on the ground will help. So good UI change, like I think the green boots are a good UI change. This was so much more structured than the game they showed during the finals. They tried to show off too many different things at once and it just looked messy. Yeah, this would have been a better game to show, in my opinion. You think McCrew is disabled for this build. That makes sense. Overwatch is entertainment. Spawn holds aren't fun to watch. We'll see. We'll see. Fun for you. Okay. For casual viewers watching for entertainment, they want to see more of the map. That's fair. Fortunately, we know this map. What's the map guide this weekend? It's a good question. I don't know exactly what it's going to be. I've got another Northeastern match to get through. They had a match that I knew that they needed to prep for. We needed to be serious about, do warm-ups, all that sort of stuff for. Yesterday with University of North Texas. And today we have Davis, which is a little less serious. A little less serious. I mean, they're a GM level team, but they're not at that level. So we'll see. Oh, we have a super chat coming in from Lion32 for 25 SAR. I don't know what that is, but we'll look it up in a moment. Your daily VOD share helped me climb a lot, so this is a small thank you. Thank you, Lion32. I very much appreciate that super chat. That's great. I'm glad to hear it helped you climb. I actually got to see, I put the Tracer video up. I posted that earlier this morning. It was of a 3400 Tracer, and I got a message from them couple hours later of, hey, they just hit Masters for the first time, and then they linked me a private video that was, just the last minute or so of their match and then the promotion there, and they were clearly quite excited about that. So happy to hear you went up, happy to hear someone else I was working up with went up, happy to hear everyone's, climbing, doing well. I'm always happy to see that. Sorry, the reason I went on that tangent is, I'm happy to see that. It was fun to see, just like it's fun to see you here went and what was I saying? You have been your climbing has been helped by watching these VODs. So thank you very much for that super chat, Line 32. And for letting me know that you climbed. Like, that's always awesome. Artsy likes the darker maps. It's 667 USD. Nice. Pretty solid super chat there. And Carolina says, wow. Okay. I think that one's going to... Oh, you cracked diamond last season after your VODs and being hard stuck plat on support for like 10 seasons. Awesome, Gen Z main. If you're a Gen Z main, do you sometimes pick different roles? Do you sometimes go like, nope, I'm gonna millennial for this day, or I'm gonna boomer for this day? Like, if you're a Gen Z main, is that like are you a Gen Z one trick or are you a Gen Z main? Do you sometimes like go, no, I'm gonna be Gen X this week or something like that? Now I'm consistently mid diamond. Nice. So that full on stuck middle diamond from having been hard stuck in plat for 10 seasons. Good to hear. Is there a Patreon yet? Good question, Blah. There's not. There will be. There will be at some point. I'll put it that way. Join the Discord. Okay. We'll go ahead and call that one there. Thank you guys. If you enjoyed, do hit that like button. Consider subscribing, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks.